Your pathetic olive trees were fake, Brandon. Fake. They ruined the neighborhood's entire aesthetic.
You've made a catastrophic mistake, Laura.
But Brandon Cross's trees were not decorative landscaping. For more than 2 centuries, they had supplied every drop of sacramental oil for the Vatican in North America. Every seminary, every cathedral, every chrism mass across the continent depended on this single grove.
I don't care about your little oil hobby. It's all firewood now.
She thinks this is about aesthetics. She has no idea she just attacked a sovereign religious supply line.
And the timing couldn't have been worse. It was Holy Week.
My attorney will be in touch.
Call whoever you want. The HOA stands with me.
But the paper in Brandon's hand wasn't a fine or a complaint. It was the oldest, most powerful olive oil contract on Earth. 3 weeks earlier, the grove was whole. A cathedral of silver-green leaves breathing in the morning light.
Every tree planted by hands that reach back 200 years.
Brandon checked the irrigation lines before sunrise, the way his father taught him.
Mr. Cross, the HOA board has received several complaints about your so-called grove. It's out of character with the neighborhood.
Out of character. These trees have been here since before the neighborhood existed.
We have standards. Mediterranean olive trees belong in Tuscany, not a planned community in Maryland.
They produce sacramental oil, Mrs. Hughes. Not exactly a gardening hobby.
I am sure the local crafts fair will be very impressed, but the HOA requires their removal by the end of the month.
She hears sacramental oil and thinks it's a farmer's market gimmick. If she only knew.
The formal demand arrived the next morning. Laura Hughes had no idea what she was setting in motion. 3 days later, Laura Hughes produced a document with an official-looking seal.
The county arborist has condemned your grove, diseased and dangerous. You have a week to clear it.
That's impossible. I inspect those trees every morning. Who signed this?
Don't bother fighting it. The HOA has already approved emergency removal.
Brandon took the notice to a registered arborist. The diagnosis was laughable. The arborist's written opinion: no evidence of any disease. Trees in excellent health. The condemnation report is fraudulent.
She forged a government document to steal my land. This isn't an HOA dispute anymore.
He called his attorney, who confirmed forgery plus property damage could mean prison. But first, they needed an injunction.
Get me in front of a judge. If they touch those trees, the Vatican will have something to say.
The deadline was 6 days away. Laura had already scheduled the bulldozers. Holy Week came, and Brandon loaded crates of freshly pressed oil for the seminaries.
Same as last year, Father. Chrism oil pressed yesterday.
While he crossed the state, delivering the sacred shipment, Laura Hughes executed her plan.
I don't care if it's Holy Week. Bring the machines at dawn.
At first light, bulldozers tore through the grove, uprooting trees that had stood since before the American Revolution.
Finally, this neighborhood will meet modern aesthetic standards.
The air smells wrong. Diesel, not olive leaves. Something deep inside just cracked.
He pulled into his driveway and saw the horizon, treeless, brown, unrecognizable.
They did it. All of them. Get the warrant and meet me at the courthouse.
But Laura hadn't just bulldozed a grove. She'd broken a chain of oil stretching back 2 centuries, and the Vatican would soon learn it. Urgent. Easter chrism, oil missing. Every seminary in the Northeast is calling. No backup supply exists.
They were counting on me. And now the whole church is scrambling.
The news reached the Vatican by morning. By noon, the secretary's office was drafting a formal protest.
For 200 years, this family supplied our chrism without fail. Now, on Holy Week, nothing.
The papal warrant is not a souvenir. Eminence, this is a violation of a sovereign trust.
The Vatican issued the formal diplomatic protest. A cable marked U Argent arrived at the State Department.
The Vatican is treating this as a hostile act. Who bulldozes an olive grove and causes a diplomatic crisis. Mr. Cross, This is Richard Stern at the State Department. I've just read a papal protest about your trees.
I've been waiting for someone up high to notice. Let's fix this.
The destruction of a few olive trees was now a matter of state, and Laura Hughes had no idea the government was watching.
The Holy See is a sovereign state, Mr. Cross. Your grove had treaty-level protection under the papal warrant.
So this isn't just property damage. It's an international incident.
This is absurd. A neighborhood maintenance issue. I need you to shut down this federal investigation nonsense.
But every call she made hit a wall of polite refusal. The State Department had already asserted jurisdiction.
What do you mean the bulldozer company is talking to federal agents? They were paid to stay quiet.
Meanwhile, federal investigators found the real arborist. His sworn statement exposed the forged condemnation as a clumsy fraud.
It's just trees. How did this become a federal case over olive oil?
The Vatican has never activated a warrant like this. Every lawyer in Foggy Bottom wants a piece.
Then, let's make sure she never does this to anyone else.
Laura Hughes realized her local influence was meaningless. The federal case was now inevitable. Brandon's attorney walked into the U.S. Attorney's office, carrying a single piece of parchment.
This papal warrant isn't decoration. It's a sovereign treaty signed in 1789.
Within hours, the media had the warrant's history. The story was too explosive to contain. HOA, Karen, bulldozes Vatican's holy oil. Federal charges filed.
They're making me out to be a religious persecutor over a few old trees.
But the video of bulldozers grinding ancient trunks, with Laura's smugness, played on loop.
Every station is running my face. They're calling me a monster.
Brandon, by contrast, stood amid the ruins, calm and unblinking. The warrant was now public.
How did a quiet HOA enforcement turn into this nightmare?
Reporters staked out her home. The federal trial was all anyone could talk about. The certified arborist's testimony was read into the record. The trees were healthy. The report a lie typed on her own stationery. No evidence of disease. The condemnation notice is fraudulent and appears to be forged.
This is a witch hunt. I followed procedure. Those trees were a public nuisance.
Her lawyer pulled her aside. The evidence was overwhelming. He begged her to settle.
Settle. I'd rather burn the whole neighborhood down. We'll destroy him in court.
Monsignor, take the original warrant. The Vatican's full authority goes with you.
This treaty is sacred. I will ensure the court understands its sovereign weight.
Monsignor Benelli boarded a flight with a diplomatic pouch that hadn't been opened in over a century. He arrived in Washington with a sealed dossier and a mandate to intervene. The federal trial was set for Monday. No more delays. Laura's fate was sealed, but the federal prosecutor's office had been digging, and they found a trail, a family fined into bankruptcy over a non-existent paint violation, an elderly couple forced to sell their home after she labeled their garden unsightly. Her attorney called Saturday morning. The federal case had expanded.
Racketeering. They can't turn a few HOA complaints into a criminal conspiracy.
But the list of victims stretched back years, each with the same signature. Forged documents, ironclad fines. By Sunday, the news was calling it a reign of terror in a sundress.
I called every contact. Nobody wants to be seen with a federal defendant.
Monday morning, the indictment was amended. 14 new counts, conspiracy to commit fraud. Laura Hughes now faced decades in prison, and the trial hadn't even begun. Monsignor Benelli walked into the law firm's conference room, carrying the original Vatican dossier. He opened the portfolio and laid out documents that had not been seen in centuries.
The papal warrant of 1789 is not a contract. It is a binding treaty between sovereign states.
The documents confirmed the Holy See had granted the grove extraterritorial status for sacred oil production.
So, it wasn't just my land. It was Vatican territory.
Across town, Laura's legal team was briefed on the treaty's implications. Their case had just crumbled. Her lead attorney stared at the document. If the grove was sovereign soil, they were facing a diplomatic catastrophe. Laura, informed by phone, hurled a vase across the living room. the porcelain shattered.
Sovereign soil. I destroyed Vatican property.
The judge was notified of the treaty's implications. Monday morning would be a reckoning. Sunday night, Laura's husband stood in the doorway of her study, his voice trembling. He begged her to accept a plea deal before it was too late, but she wouldn't listen.
I will not grovel. Not to him. Not to anyone.
He left without another word. The silence in the house was absolute. Across the neighborhood, Brandon Cross sat alone in his study.
All those years, this was just a piece of paper. Tomorrow, it decides everything.
He placed the warrant in its glass display case and shut the cabinet. Morning came gray and heavy. Reporters filled the courthouse steps. Laura sat in her lawyer's office, staring at the indictment without blinking. In the courtroom, the bailiff called the case. The trial of the century was about to begin.
This court is now in session. The case of United States v. Hughes is on the docket.
The prosecution's opening laid out the forgery, the destruction, and the centuries-old sacred trust broken. Then Monsignor Benelli took the stand, carrying a leather dossier that smelled of old incense.
Since 1789, the Cross Grove has produced every drop of chrism for North America. It was a sacred trust. The papal warrant elevated those trees to treaty status. Their destruction was an act against the Holy See itself.
A murmur rippled through the gallery. Even the reporters stopped typing.
This Easter, for the first time in 2 centuries, no chrism blessed Catholic faithful in North America.
Laura whispered something to her lawyer, her face pale as the parchment.
This court recognizes the papal warrant as a binding international instrument.
The defense's case now hung by a thread, and the prosecution hadn't even called its next witness. Laura's attorney called her first witness, a neighbor who claimed the grove attracted pests. Cross-examination shredded her in minutes. Then, the real arborist took the stand. His voice cracked as he held the forged document. He testified, "I never signed this. Whoever forged my name destroyed a sacred trust." Laura stared at her lap, refusing to meet the witness's eyes.
Counselor, your next witness had better be more substantial.
The defense lawyer scrambled, but his strategy had collapsed. Only Laura's testimony remained.
They've trapped me. The only way out is through.
The court has no tolerance for frivolous attacks on character. Proceed with substance or rest your case.
A recess was called. Laura's attorney whispered urgently. It was her turn or nothing. Brandon Cross watched from across the aisle. He knew the trial was about to become personal. The bailiff called Brandon Cross to the stand. He walked up, the papal warrant in his hand. Under oath, he traced the family legacy. 1789, every pope, every chrism, every drop of oil.
This warrant is a treaty. The Vatican itself is the aggrieved party.
He described Holy Week, the stripped branches, the smoke, the silent phone. The silent phone.
Mr. Cross, does the treaty confer any personal immunity or status on you?
She's inches from the truth, not yet. The treaty protects the grove and its supply. I am its guardian.
The judge held his gaze. The courtroom felt the weight of something unsaid. The defense attorney leaned forward, sensing a trap almost sprung. Brandon returned to his seat, the warrant his only visible armor, but not his only one. Laura Hughes took the stand, her chin high, her voice steady.
I only enforced community standards. Those trees were an eyesore and a hazard.
But the prosecution had the forged arborist report. The real expert's signature was clearly counterfeit.
This is nothing. They can't prove I typed it.
The prosecutor held up the document. The arborist's name was misspelled, a mistake the real expert never made.
I never signed that. Someone else must have used my name.
But the metadata on her computer showed she'd created the file. The lie was documentary and damning.
Mrs. Hughes, you are under oath. I am warning you.
Her lawyer sank his head into his hands. Perjury was now on the table. Laura gripped the railing until her knuckles whitened. The trap she'd set for Brandon had sprung on herself. A clerk handed the judge a sealed envelope, bearing the seal of the State Department. Judge Morrison scanned the amicus brief. Her expression grew troubled.
The United States warns that invalidating this treaty could harm diplomatic relations. This brief carries weight.
Laura's attorney stood to object, but his voice was unsteady.
This court cannot ignore sovereign status. If Mr. Cross holds any immunity under this treaty, I need to know.
Your Honor, the papal warrant grants more than agricultural rights. It carries protections not yet revealed.
Benelli's words hung in the air. The defense attorneys exchanged panicked glances.
Mr. Cross, is there a hidden privilege here? You will answer directly.
I can provide documentation, but it has not been necessary until now.
The courtroom was silent. Laura Hughes realized the verdict of her life was about to be written. Monsignor Benelli approached the bench and produced a cream envelope sealed with the crossed keys of the Holy See.
This letter, from the Vatican Secretary of State, clarifies the status of the warrant holder. It is a matter of diplomatic law.
The defense lawyer half rose to object, but Judge Morrison raised her hand like a closing gate.
I will read it. This court will determine if the document has diplomatic relevance.
She broke the seal with a decisive crack and scanned the paper. The room held its breath.
Your Honor, the key phrase is, "The bearer of the papal warrant holds unique personal protections under both canon and international law, including honorary citizenship."
A murmur swept the gallery. Reporters scribbled frantically. Citizens of the tiny sovereign state were among the most legally protected people on Earth.
Citizen? She's saying he's a Vatican citizen. Number? No, that's not possible.
Mr. Cross, the court will allow you to present supporting documentation of this citizenship claim. We will take a brief recess.
Brandon nodded, his hand resting on a pocket inside his jacket. The document was ready. The court reconvened. Brandon Cross walked back to the stand, his expression unchanged.
Under the terms of the papal warrant, my family has held honorary citizenship of Vatican City since 1789.
He reached into his jacket and withdrew a small maroon passport embossed with gold keys. He opened it to the photo page. The Latin inscription and holographic seals were unmistakable.
I bulldozed a Vatican citizen's property. I am not going to prison. I am going to a diplomatic black hole.
This changes the jurisdiction of this case. Mr. Cross, you hold citizenship in a sovereign state.
This passport has been valid for 30 years. The Holy See recognizes me as its citizen.
The gallery erupted. Reporters scrambled to photograph the passport.
He's a Vatican citizen? I destroyed a Vatican citizen's grove.
The judge ordered the passport entered into evidence. The case had become an international incident.
After careful deliberation, this court finds Laura Hughes guilty on all counts, including forgery and destruction of religious property.
She was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison, with no possibility of early parole. The court also ordered restitution of $4.2 million to the Cross family and the Holy See.
12 years. My entire world gone because of a few trees.
International media hailed the verdict as a historic defense of diplomatic and religious sovereignty.
The Holy See expresses profound gratitude for this just ruling, which upholds the sacred treaty.
Laura Hughes, in her magenta coat, was handcuffed and led from the courtroom, her empire in ruins. Her HOA seat was forfeited, her assets seized, and the neighborhood's restrictive covenants dissolved.
Justice is done. Now, I can bring the grove back to life.
The judge's gavel struck the block. The case of the olive grove was closed. Laura's assets were seized. Her HOA dissolved. The restrictive covenants that had empowered her tyranny were struck down.
Now the land can finally heal. The first new trees are in the ground.
The Vatican sent olive saplings from their own gardens, a living reminder of the sacred treaty. Cardinal Rinaldi blessed the planting, reaffirming the Holy See's spiritual bond with the Cross family. Even among the wreckage, a stubborn stump sprouted a green shoot. Life would return. Neighbors who once complained now watched quietly. Some brought their children to see the trees.
This grove will produce oil again, but this time no one will dare touch it.
The first oil from the new trees was years away, but the promise of renewal was already bearing fruit.
The Holy See will provide all necessary support to ensure the grove's full restoration, Mr. Cross.
And so the work continued, each sapling a victory, each root a testament. A small crowd gathered under the spring sky. Cardinal Rinaldi raised an aspergillum of holy water. He blessed the saplings in Latin, the ancient words drifting over the young leaves. Children who had once heard their parents complain now ran between the rows, laughing. 2 flagpoles stood at the grove's entrance, the stars and stripes and the gold and white of Vatican City. A local priest read from the book of Genesis, the dove returning with an olive branch. The olive tree is God's promise of peace after the flood. This grove is a sign of resurrection.
Resurrection. That's exactly what this is.
The Treaty of 1789 is honored again. The Cross Grove will once more supply the chrism of the faithful.
The neighbors looked on, not with resentment, but with something like reverence. And in the center, Brandon Cross stood silent, the papal warrant folded in his hands, at peace. As dusk fell, Brandon walked alone through the rows of young olive trees, their leaves silver in the fading light. In his study, he opened the glass display case that had awaited a worthy heirloom for years. He laid the papal warrant down with the same care his grandfather had used to press the first olive oil. The glass lid clicked shut. The centuries-old parchment would now face the future from behind a shield of clarity. He returned to the grove as the sun sank beneath the line of the distant houses. Then he saw it, a single olive, perfect and green, hanging from a new branch dripping with evening dew. He reached out and cradled it in his palm, a tiny, living promise that the grove was not dead. The doves murmured in the remaining old trees. The sky deepened to purple.
This is what victory looks like. Not revenge, just renewal.
Brandon Cross, citizen of 2 worlds, guardian of the sacred oil. At last, at peace,